My name is Moss. I'm a site reliability engineer, and I've been in the tech industry for almost 10 years. I want to have a conversation that you might not like, but I think it's necessary. Over the last several years, and especially more recently, I've seen an influx of videos from tech influencers like myself, and they title the video something along the lines of how I became a software engineer in 3 months, or 6 months, or 9 months. And I wanted to make this video a reality check to set your expectations if you're looking to break into tech, especially a technical role within the tech industry like software engineering or something like that. When you see those videos from influencers saying that they got, a software engineering job or software development job in 3 months or 6 months or 8 months, you don't know what their circumstances might have been that led to them getting a job. Sometimes there's a lot of luck involved. I know in my career, I've gotten really lucky with some of the roles that I got. And at the same time, some of these influencers might even have a technical background that would kind of escalate their chances of getting one of these jobs. And in the very unlikely event that they say they got a job because they are self taught and in 3 or 6 months or whatever, they just went online and found a bunch of free resources and taught themselves how to code. This is the exception to the rule, especially in today's job market. Some people just have a natural talent for doing things like coding. Personally, I don't. Number one, teaching yourself how to code, especially from a non technical background, is extremely hard and almost impossible without some sort of guidance from someone that knows what they're doing, like a mentor or a tutor. And on top of that, when you're a self taught programmer, your curriculum includes working on projects that can be completed by one person. And in practice, on the job, you're not going to be working on projects by yourself. You're going to be working on large distributed systems with multiple people. And so, this uh, experience that you get teaching yourself how to code does not map over completely to what you're going to be doing on the job. So that's really the first thing that I want to address is that teaching yourself how to code and becoming like a self-taught programmer that gets hired by a company is very, very difficult to do in today's job market. It was difficult before, and I can't even imagine what it's like right now to do that. So if you see any videos online from influencers saying that they got a job as a developer being self taught and they taught themselves in 3 months or 6 months or something like that, just know that they are the exception to the rule. Either they got lucky, they got some sort of technical background that helped them out. You don't know all of their circumstances. And if they got hired between like 2020 and 2021, there was a huge hiring boom in tech for those 2 years. I mean, tech was growing like crazy, and they were trying to scoop up everybody that they could. So during that time, I mean, the criteria for candidates, the bar for candidates was dropped. And I'm speaking even for myself. I got jobs in 2021 that I think I probably wouldn't have qualified for if it hadn't happened in 2021 or 2020. That 2 year period is something that is probably not going to be repeated for a while. If you look at the sentiment across new graduates coming out of computer science degrees, they're having a difficult time finding jobs in software development positions. And that wasn't really the case a few years back. If you had a computer science degree, 5 years ago, you're probably going to be lined up with a job somewhere. And now in today's market, graduating with a computer science degree isn't really enough. Your competition has grown quite a bit over the last few years. But then let's compare getting a computer science degree versus going to a coding bootcamp, for instance. The bootcamp is definitely not a better option than getting a computer science degree. Boot camps are expensive, and you can't pull like a federal student loan out for a boot camp, as far as I know. And boot camps are completely unregulated, unlike universities, which are accredited and have to meet some standard, even though that standard probably isn't high enough. There's basically no guarantee that you'll get a job after completing a boot camp. In my opinion, I think boot camps are big business. I think they were especially big in the last few years when there was a large push for people to pivot into tech who might have been coming from a non technical background or some other industry. And they didn't want to have to go back to school for a 4 year degree just to get into the industry. There are some boot camps that are apparently audited and they provide their job placement percentage rate for students who graduate from the boot camp. But I'm just super skeptical of the numbers that they come up with. They seem very, very high, and I just don't know if I believe them. I would love to hear from you in the comments. If any of you have experience with boot camps, I would love to hear your experience with a boot camp and get your opinions on what boot camps provide, because personally, I'm very skeptical of what boot camps can offer. Now, the other thing that I've been seeing in videos is people pushing certificates and getting certified in some sort of technology in order to get a job. And I'm going to lay out the use cases that I think a certificate is still valid for. In general, I think certificates, like boot camps, are big business for companies like AWS and Google and other companies that create certificates. A lot of the information that's included in the training programs for these certificates is readily available for free online. And you don't have to take, you don't have to pay for some, training program that you go through before paying to take the exam for the certificate and all this other stuff. It's unnecessary. But here's where I think certificates could potentially lead to a job. Number one is government tech. If you're working for a government contractor, the government clients typically have requirements for various roles, and those requirements will often include specific certificates that the job candidate should have. So, in government specifically, you might have to have a particular cert in order to qualify for a given role. The other use case is for entry level non software development roles. And for this, I mean IT help desk roles and similar ones. I think certs might be useful in this situation if you are pivoting into tech from a non technical background or a non technical industry and you want to start at level zero. And level zero to me is IT help desk support. So the certs that I have in mind are like CompTIA A plus, Security plus, Network plus, things like that. They validate a basic understanding of a lot of fundamental concepts in tech, and that will help your resume stand out a little bit more if you are applying for like an IT help desk position. But just know that there is an overflow of computer science graduates entering into the job market, and there's not really enough entry level software development roles for all of them. And so they're going to branch out into other roles. And so you could be competing with people that have a relevant computer science degree, even for these lower positions like IT help desk. The next area where certificates might actually be a requirement is cybersecurity. If you're getting into cybersecurity, I have seen job postings where, there's a requirement to have a certification, a cyber cert, something similar to like CISSP or maybe the certified ethical hacker, something along those lines. They might even like to see a networking certificate like the CCNP. But in addition to those certificate requirements, a lot of them also require prior experience in cybersecurity. So they're not all entry level roles, and the certificates are not all entry level certificates, like the CISSP, for instance. Lastly, the final use case that I see for getting a certificate is if you're already in a job and that job is willing to pay for you to get a certificate. Let's say you're working as a data analyst at your current company and you're interested in learning more about machine learning, for instance, and you identify a machine learning certificate online that you want to take, and you're just interested in learning about it. You don't necessarily want to get the cert because you think it's going to get you a different job or something like that, but it's for your own education. Absolutely get the cert if your company is going to pay for it. And I also want to give you my experience with certificates because I've gotten multiple certs in the past. I've gotten the CompTIA A plus, the Security plus. I've gotten ITIL Foundations. I've gotten Scrum Master, certified, scaled, agile product owner, product manager, something like that. And then I also got the AWS Solutions Architect Associate level cert. In my opinion, I don't think that any of the certs that I had played a key role in landing me a job. And the one that I'm most frustrated about is the AWS Solutions Architect certificate because I got that back in like 2018. And at the time, I was like a system administrator at this company. And I started applying to DevOps engineering roles at other companies. But every time I'd get interviewed with these other companies, they'd be like, "Oh, well, do you have any, professional experience with AWS?" And I'd be like, "No, but I just got this cert, the AWS Solutions Architect certificate, and I had hands-on experience with AWS. I went through like a 3-month long course, kind of teaching myself AWS, and then going through the certificate exam as well, and passed it." And they didn't care. Every single company that I interviewed with wanted professional experience with AWS. So my point is that certificates are limited in their usefulness. And if your expectation is that you'll be able to, study for a few months, get a certificate, and then immediately land a job, that's probably an unlikely scenario, except given the use cases that I provided previously. I think right now in today's job market, you're going to be competing with a lot more people. And so, even with a certificate, it's going to be difficult to stand out. I told you that my first job was IT help desk at the beginning of 2014. And after the first 6 months or so being at that job, I realized that I wanted to be in more technical roles. And my overall goal was to be a software developer. So at first, I started off getting like certificates, and then I moved on to a defense contracting role. And that was like a completely non technical position, kind of like a consultant position. And during that time, I was also getting certified, and I started taking community college courses to prepare me for a master's program that I wanted to take at a university, at a local university. I spent a couple years in that contractor role, and during that time, I'd entered into a master's program, taking technical courses like some programming courses and databases and stuff like that. And then I moved to a new position it was called DevOps engineer, but it wasn't really DevOps engineering. It was like it was pretty basic, like system administration. And during that time, I entered into a master's computer science program that was online, Georgia Tech. And I was in that job for like 5 years. And the computer science program lasted for 3 years. And so this is like, a period of like, I don't know, how many years is that? That's like 8 years. It was a while. And I look back on it, and it was this slow grind throughout my career into new roles. And maybe a couple years ago, I finally kind of got a role that was fairly technical, that I was actually coding and using in quite a bit of DevOps tooling in. And then in my current role, I'm a site reliability engineer, and it's a fairly technical role. So altogether, it's taken me like almost 10 years to finally work for, a quote unquote tech company and be in a very technical role. So I say all that to give you some perspective and possibly adjust your expectations on how long you think it might take to get your dream role in tech, whether that be a software developer or a data scientist or a machine learning engineer or a DevOps engineer, whatever it may be. It's probably going to take longer than you think. And if it doesn't, great. You probably got lucky, or you're just naturally talented. You have a knack for it. You have the right circumstances in your life to set you up for whatever job that you want to pursue. And that's awesome. But for a lot of people, including myself, it was a very slow grind to kind of my target role that I wanted to be in. And I can tell you right now, if you're entering into tech at this point in time, I think it's not the best time to enter into tech. I'm not discouraging you from doing it. I think it's a great field to be in. I'm just saying that it's going to be probably even more difficult to do it now. I hope this video helps you set realistic expectations for your career. I took my first job in IT help desk because I had to. I didn't want to get into tech. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I needed a job at that point, but it ended up leading to a very rewarding career. Just remember that anything worth doing doesn't come easy, because if it did, everyone would do it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider throwing a like on it and subscribing to the channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.